Hello and welcome to the Services Australia podcast, where we talk about some of your big life moments and give you the information you need when you need it. This time of year is a really exciting time for school leavers. Whether you or someone you know is finishing year 12, heading to uni, starting a trade, or even jumping straight into work, or perhaps you don't really know what you're going to be doing yet, this is the episode for you. I'm joined today by our resident payment and services agency spokesperson and expert, Justin Bott. Hi there, Justin. How are you going?
Kirsten, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
And we've both got students in our families.
We do. So we both know that end of year 12, congratulations obviously to the students that have just finished year 12. Great. But also congratulations to the parents of the students that have just finished year 12, because there's a lot of carrying going on to help your child get through to the end of it right there.
It is certainly a journey, but a great one. So can you tell me about the payments that we have to support students?
So the main payment for students is called youth allowance. So that's if your child is studying, they're under 25, or if they're actually looking for work, they can also claim youth allowance, but they get it for different rules. When it comes to studying, it's basically if you're doing a full-time load or 75% of a full-time load, you're defined as a full-time student and potentially eligible for it. The payment itself, it's at the moment, it's $472.50 a fortnight if you're over 18 and living at home, or $410.30 if you're under 18 and living at home. But it's important to say that that's indexed, so that's what it is right now, but it will change as the time goes by. Also, there are other payments out there for people studying. There's AusStudy for people who are over 25 years of age, but also if you are Indigenous or a Torres Strait Islander, then AbStudy is the payments that you should be looking at. It's worth saying that AbStudy is actually a whole group of different payments all put together, so it's actually not such an easy thing to explain. If you do have an Indigenous or Torres Strait Islander student, then absolutely go to the website servicesaustralia.gov.au, search AbStudy and have a read from there.
So obviously there's different payments for different circumstances. How do people find out if they're eligible for these payments?
Best place to go is our website. So there's two different components, I guess, if you want to look at for when a child's finishing year 12 and what they're going to be doing. The first one is what sort of payment they get. So servicesaustralia.gov.au, and on the front page there, on the home page, you'll find a panel marked education. So if you click on that, it will take you through to the sorts of payments that your child may be eligible for. So we've mentioned youth allowance. Also, if your child's over 25, then they're potentially eligible for something called AusStudy. Or if your child is Indigenous or Torres Strait Islander, then there's AbStudy as a payment for them as well, which is a whole range of different payments put together. But you'll find that through education, so it lists the payments. The other thing that we do, a much bigger picture than that, because it's not just about what I can claim. There's a lot that happens when somebody turns 18 and starts to move into the whole world of adults, is there's a section called Leaving School. So if you go to servicesaustralia.gov.au, search Leaving School, you're going to find a whole range of much more varied information, of bigger picture stuff, if you like, that a person who's 18 now needs to focus on.
So what sort of things are in that list?
Well, think about what does it mean if I'm going from being a child to being an adult? So we're talking about things like, do you have a MyGov account? Most of us now would have a MyGov account because we needed it, but has my 18-year-old got it now? And you need MyGov to claim payments for Services Australia, to interact with the ATO, Medicare, all that sort of stuff. So have I got a MyGov account? How to create one? How to engage with the other agencies? But also bigger, tax file numbers. If I haven't got one yet because the school helped me, we all know we need one. Then through Leaving School, I can find out how to do that. Medicare. I'm now, do I have a Medicare card of my own? Because I'm not necessarily living at home with mum and dad and I can't just grab their Medicare card when I need to. And have I created my own bank account for Medicare to make sure that the payments are all going through for me? So much more, I have to make these sort of adult decisions on my own. I might actually be completely away from mum and dad. I might be in a completely different city from mum and dad. And so I'm going to have to start going to the doctors by myself. I'm going to have to start car registration, all those little bits and pieces that adults have been doing for a while. Your 18-year-old is now having to start doing themselves, and there's a lot of information on that Leaving School that can help you.
I guess sometimes as parents we take for granted that our kids are going to know these things, but they don't really. And I guess it's a good resource for us too to have a look at and just go, oh, yes, we need to get all this sort of stuff sorted out for them.
Yeah, well, Yes, sort it out, but I'd encourage them to try and work these things through on their own. Here's we want to not just lead the horse to water, we want the horse to drink. So we want the kids to be able to say, right, now I need to start making these decisions and work things out. Because, you move out of home for the first time, which there are going to be a lot of people that are. I've now got flatmates. I've now got to interact with other humans that aren't mum and dad, and I've got to do things like wash dishes and cook dinners and pay electricity bills and all these sorts of things that might be coming through. Not all of that is going to be available on our website for sure, but there's a lot to help the kids work those things through. And at some point, you're going to have to let them experience life.
Yes, fly the nest.
Yeah.
Which sounds like becoming independent. And I guess there's an issue with our payments too about whether you're independent or dependent. Can you explain that to us?
So the first thing is, if your child is 22 or over, they are automatically independent. So being independent means, the important thing is that being independent means that we don't look at mum and dad's income in working out their eligibility for the payment. Now, if your child is under 22, the majority will be considered to be dependent, which means we will look at mum and dad's income. But there are different reasons why we would consider somebody under 22 to be independent. The main one is about the sort of work that they're doing. So have they been working over the last couple of years? So in the last 2 years, if your child's been working for 18 months all up over the last 2 years, and they're doing on average 30 hours a week or more worth of work over that 18-month period, then they can be considered independent and we won't look at mum and dad's income. If the child's in a rural or a remote area, then it's actually even easier. It's the same sort of 2-year period, but it's like 15 hours a week for making that happen. So, the other criteria are about relationships, about, have the child, is there a child involved, as in got a grandchild? Are they in a member of a couple? Those sorts of things. So what I really recommend, if you are thinking that your child might meet that independent criteria, best thing to do is to again go to our website, servicesaustralia.gov.au. But in this case, search independence in the search field, and then that'll give you the list. So you can look and see, will my partner's income actually have an impact on my child's eligibility for youth allowance or not? So website will tell you.
What about support for people living in rural and regional areas? Is there anything special for students who have to travel or people that need to travel for further study a bit further than the big cities?
There absolutely is. And again, if you go to the website, you'll find them. But the first one we want to talk about is called the Relocation Scholarship. Now, the good thing about the Relocation Scholarship is that it's not something that you have to actually apply for on its own. If you're eligible for youth allowance and you tell us on the claim that your child's going to be moving and basically they're going to be relocating, you're going to tell us if they're eligible for the Relocation Scholarship. And if we work that out, then we'll pay the money. Now, what we're talking about here is about $5,500 in the first year, and then it can be continue to be getting paid as the $2,700 for the next couple of years on from that. So it's a decent amount of money. And again, it's for that idea of I'm a child eligible for youth allowance and I've had to move to study. So that's that idea of actually having to leave home, having to go from the countryside to the big smoke because that's where the course is, and I can get that relocation scholarship at the same time as claiming my youth allowance. So it's all part of the one package. And
they don't have to apply for anything special. As you said, that's part of that youth allowance claim? Yeah, all in one. So you're going to tell us, there'll be enough information that you give us in the claim that will allow us to work out, is your child also eligible for the relocation scholarship? But there is another one, and this is actually one that... like if you're a parent and you know about dependence and independence and you've done a bit of research and you work out my child is not going to be eligible for youth allowance, doesn't mean that you can't get some form of support, certainly if you have to move to study. And it's called the tertiary access payment. So the tertiary access payment is a one-off lump sum. It's either $5,000 or $3,000, depending on where you are living now and where your child's going to be moving to. But this one you can get, but you have to actually apply for that. So you can get the tertiary access payment with youth allowance and the relocation scholarship, but you can also get the tertiary access payment on its own. So it may well be that if you're in a rural or remote community, you know you're not going to be eligible for youth allowance. That doesn't mean that there's no support for you. So have a look at that tertiary access payment. And again, it's that same sort of principle that my child's needing to move from the country to the big smoke or moving to study. Am I eligible for that $5,000 payment or the $3,000 payment, depending on where I live? So that's good because some people do think, I'm just not eligible, or when there's no point even looking at the website, there's nothing there for me. And that's not the case then.
Yeah, no, one of our biggest concerns is that there are payments and services that you can get, not just from Services Australia, but through your local councils, through your state governments, that you don't know about because you didn't look to see that they were there. So, yeah, if you've got a child who's continuing studying, whether you are going to be eligible for youth allowance or not doesn't mean that there's nothing there for you. And you may well want to check out other things, eligibilities, talk about going to the website. So leaving school or just going to the servicesaustralia.gov.au and clicking on that education to find out everything that's out there that your child might be able to take advantage of.
Now, I'm sure you know, because in my household, they've got their eyes on the summer holiday and they're getting ready to shut the laptop and power off for the year. Is there anything, though, that we would like students to do before they clock off to help with next year?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is don't clock off just yet. So with youth allowance, you're actually allowed to lodge an application for youth allowance up to 13 weeks before you become eligible, which realistically means when you finish year 12, you can actually pretty much lodge an application for youth allowance straight away. Now, the big concern is that I've done the exams. I don't know how I went, which means I don't know what course I'm going to be going to. I may have got pre-approval for a couple, but it might not be the one that I want to get into, but I'm not sure yet. We don't want you to wait to find that out. You don't have to hold off on an application for youth allowance until you know for sure where you're going to be studying. We want you to lodge the application as soon as you can. And then once confirmation goes through and you know the course that you're going to be doing, then you can keep Services Australia updated. Let us know then. And we can then say, all right, add that to the application and get that done. Now, the advantage of going early is that there's a whole lot of back office processing, things that people don't need to see, but that's all going on before the payments actually need to start. So you're not delaying or you're not missing out on any money or delaying getting that money coming through because you've done all that work beforehand. So yeah, absolutely. First thing you should be looking at doing is if your child is going to continue studying from year 12, heading into university, or even had a gap year but is going into university, then you absolutely look at getting that application in for youth allowance 13 weeks before they start. Yeah.
And then is it a matter of updating your circumstances or getting back in contact when you learn what's happening for you next year, or whether, I mean, what if you decide not to study? How does that all work?
Yeah, so absolutely. So what will happen is when you lodge the application, one of the things we're going to absolutely encourage you to do is, as much as possible, give us as much information at that time. So we're going to need some things from your student. We're going to need proof of their birth. We're going to need proof of identity, which they'll have to go into an office to give. But then there'll be the other supporting things that you need to provide, your pay slips and your bank statements and all that sort of stuff. Now, that's for now. That's not for 3 months' time. So in 13 weeks, when you're looking at actual eligibility, if there's changes in your life that have occurred in those 3 months, then you absolutely need to let Services Australia know. So just assume that you're going to be getting the payments, assuming that we need to be told this is what's happening. So tell us if there big changes happen. Tell us if you know what course you're going to be doing. Tell us if you're giving up on taking a gap year and you don't want to study at all. Again, that doesn't mean you're not eligible for youth allowance. It just means you might not be eligible for it as a student. You might need to now get it as a job seeker, and then the payments, if you're looking for it now, then the payments could potentially start pretty much straight away. So, yeah, keep us informed as things happen, and then we can make sure that we're updating your records as that's all going on.
So I guess then as parents, what can we do? I mean, I guess it is hard. I know you've said we've got to let go and let them do some of this on their own, but is there anything that we can do as parents to help prepare or get them ready or help with this process?
Well, yeah, because big things are helping, like mum and dad are more likely going to be the holder of all of the important documents than your student is going to be. So your passports, your birth certificates, all that sort of stuff, mum and dad have probably got them in the filing cabinet and they need to get that sort of stuff out to go. So having that extra support. But it can be just a simple matter of let's explore your eligibility together. Let's go and have a look at the website. Let's go and look at leaving school. Let's actually think through where are you going to be living? What are we going to be doing? How are you going to be managing day to day? And here are some tools that can help you, and let's look at those together so that we're taking the student with us to learn the lessons that they need to learn. And then, of course, there's just there's the nuts and bolts of everything that mum and dads have to do in order to make that all happen. But certainly a little bit of a prod to say now is a good time to start is always going to be a helpful thing to do as well.
And I guess we've talked a lot about payments, but it's there's more than that on the website. So you've mentioned the Leaving School checklist. It's probably worth mentioning it again. It's a good guide for people to look at, to work out, have I done this, have I done that, what do I need to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So servicesaustralia.gov.au, search Leaving School, about dealing with other government agencies, Medicare, dealing with MyGov, setting yourself up so you're right with the ATO, which you need for work, but also for Services Australia needs the tax file numbers. But there are also other sorts of support that we haven't even talked about that might be there. So there's things like loans, startup loans that a student might be able to take advantage of in their first year. There's also concession cards, which we haven't even got into. So there's something called a low-income healthcare card that your student may well be eligible for, even if they don't get a youth allowance payment. They may eligible still be for concessions through help with the medical costs through a low-income healthcare card. All of that's on the website. So it's a much bigger picture than just are you studying or are you working. It's the website is really designed to look at the whole of life that an 18-year-old now has to start focusing on, and to give them the steps to move on from there.
I think, it's a lot. There's a lot of information there that we've talked about, but it is great to be able to go through it with you. And I think that's really the message, isn't it? It's remember that the information's on the website. So get onto the website, servicesaustralia.gov.au, and have a look. Thanks, Justin, for joining us today.
Been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's great.
And I'll remind everyone that they should subscribe to the podcast, and then they'll be updated when there's a new episode. And hopefully we'll see you back here again soon.
That'll be great.
Thanks a lot.